A Conservative for Beverley and Holderness, the legend that is Graham Stuart, looking smart as carrots this afternoon. How are you, Graham?
Thank you, Jeremy. I'll try and have a share of your energy and enthusiasm.
Well, I'm trying. It sort of dissipates as the hours stretch into the evening. Am I being unfair to Sir Drury Starmer? I mean, I've spent 5 days saying, come on, man, the Supreme Court has said that a woman is a woman, a biological woman, and you've been very, very quiet. You need to come out and speak. The reason that you're not is because you're terrified about the different arms of your party. Today, a judgment, his officer said, the Supreme Court judgment has made clear that when looking at the Equality Act, a woman is a biological woman. This, of course, is a man who's always believed in supporting whatever law is created, mostly in other countries. That's him done, is it? He can't be questioned now. He's released it. That's him doing a U-turn, is it?
Well, we should be pleased about that. And what we shouldn't be is conned by any pretense that this is what he's believed all along. They're all rushing out, aren't they? The very people who were, you know, you've got recordings. It's as if they don't think we've got memories and that we don't have the ability to look back on social media posts. It's all captured. When he said, do you remember, he was asked, can only a woman have a cervix? And would it be wrong to say that? And he said, oh, yes, it would be wrong.
I was downstairs in this very building when Piers Morgan interviewed the then leader of the opposition, and I know my kids are in the car, this will make Oliver laugh, and he said to him, can a woman have a penis? And our now Prime Minister could not answer it. And I am very much like you, Graham Stuart, because across the weekend there were stories that there is a WhatsApp group already showing its face amongst Labour MPs and, in fact, Cabinet Ministers saying, how can we kick back against the Supreme Court? That's appalling if that's true.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And they actually said it was appalling that someone from the Human Rights Commission went on the television and gave an interview basically in line with the court decision. It is one of those things. I think you and I share the same problem. We never quite understood how anyone could get to this position in the first place. We can see why some trans people feeling particularly hard put upon maybe got carried away in their campaigns. But why did ordinary politicians start subscribing to this view? People like J.K. Rowling. I mean, you can see the posters from these protests, which, as you say, are going on, saying that she should be killed. I mean,
I have a real.
We're back to the two-tier policing, which you already referred to.
Absolutely.
How can they have these hateful signs? The Supreme Court has given its conclusion. We should welcome that. It's great that the Prime Minister's accepted that, because let's be fair, he could come forward and say, right, no, the Labour government doesn't accept that because we believe that...
Yeah, but he's on slightly dodgy ground, because this is a man who believes any court ruling, whether it's to do with the Chagos Islands or a country millions of miles away, and it would be slightly ironic, would it not, if he, the human rights lawyer, the man who talks about the law the whole goddamn time, turned around and said, oh, you know, the UK's highest law by, court, the Supreme Court, that's a load of tosh. The problem I've got with this is patently Labour don't agree with it. My problem is a little different, Graham, right? I'm not against trans people, but I haven't, I've said it before, teenage daughter. I think what I hate is I hear nothing from female. You know those women activists who jump up and down quite rightly and talk about women's rights, and I've always been very supportive of that. They disappear when you start talking about trans rights. And if my daughter was the #1 ranked paddle player in the United Kingdom, as Russell Quirk's daughter was, or if my daughter was a budding golfer, snooker player, runner, swimmer, whatever, I would feel really hacked off if a man was able to take part. So I think this is a sensible judgment. I don't think it's anti-trans. What I think we need to talk about when you look at these protests continuing is it has been hijacked by the bloody mob again. It's like so much is nowadays, right?
Yeah, I mean, the campaigners have said all they wanted to do is be left in peace. Well, the court was quite clear. It's not seeking to curb trans rights. People should be respected, just as you say. They choose how they live their life, but we can't change biological sex. You have to draw the line somewhere. The court's done that for us. The Prime Minister's now accepted it. So I think we should bank that and be glad. But at the same time, we've got to make sure that they aren't allowed at their protests to do things which anyone else would find themselves in prison for.
Now, I like the segue there, Stuart. You didn't even know you did that. You used the word "let's bank that," which leads me on nicely to a woman who you really, really admire. You are one of Rachel Thieves, or Richard III, as I call her, one of her biggest fans. Today, she's been told by the world's top financial watchdog, basically, the International Monetary Fund has said, you're out of manoeuvre here, Thieves, because you've got it all wrong. You're going to have to hike taxes or basically... you're going to have to slash more of public spending, which is everything that the Labour Party in their manifesto said they weren't going to do. This woman is out of her depth, isn't she, Graham Stuart?
She certainly is, and it's frightening to think of her representing this country in Washington. She's hammering families, she's destroying family farms, she's closing businesses all around the country, 200,000 businesses just since her budget, and she made pensioners freeze over the winter. She's presiding over sclerotic growth, high inflation, and she's now been told by the world watchdog, as you say, that it's not down to that high inflation in this country isn't down to Donald Trump and his tariffs. They've said it's down to UK government policies. They've said that even while he imposes tariffs, which are going to shove up inflation for every poor American family, she is going to do worse. It's going to be higher in the UK inflation this coming year than any other G7 country.
Put it in layman's terms. Am I allowed to say that, or do I have to say laypersons? Why has she, or how has she got it so spectacularly wrong, in your opinion?
I don't think she has the slightest grasp of where wealth comes from. I think that's the fundamental. You look at the whole front bench, none of them have ever worked in a business. They literally think business people are kind of rich, fat parasites who can just be taxed to oblivion. But it turns out if you make it unprofitable to hire people, they stop hiring. And now we're seeing unemployment going up. They thought that taxing business was a clever wheeze because we promised not to put taxes up on ordinary working people. It turns out that doesn't raise any money. Extraordinary, a £25 billion hit on the economy. And many commentators now think it'll raise nothing. Isn't that extraordinary? So they don't even get any money to spend on public services, but they have a huge negative impact on business, on employment, on hope and opportunity for people. And the IMF couldn't have been clearer today. They've said that skyrocketing inflation in this country is entirely down to the policies of Rachel Reeves. And that's why, as you know, Jeremy, that's why I say that Keir Starmer needs to bring her into number 10 and say, Rachel, you're fired.
But then look at that, right? Look at very good, impressive that. Yeah, I mean, she's the Chancellor, Rachel Thieves. You've got Lammy. I mean, I shudder when I imagine he's representing us in Europe. It's an extraordinary, and you make a really salient point, which is none of them seem to have any experience. I mean, the only one, and he's speaking now. I remain impressed by the Defence Secretary. He's the only one I like, John Healey. There's some gravitas about him as a human being. I don't have to agree with his policies, but the rest of them, and I'm with you. And what's really interesting is I had lunch with a very good friend of mine who built a very successful business, and he was saying, he's been doing it for 40 years and he's employed hundreds of people. He said, I couldn't do it nowadays. He said, I've got friends who are setting out now to set up small and medium-sized businesses or try and survive. And he said, it's virtually impossible. The NI increases this government have instigated, the workers' rights package they're going to bring in, all of which does nothing because people just go, why would I bother? I'm not going to make any money. Growth. They go on about growth. And actually what they've done, I thought it was brilliant what you just said. Anybody who's ever achieved anything in this country, be it through business or success, the Labour Party's idea of dealing with that is to tax them into oblivion so they either close their bloody business or they leave the country. That is not how you make an economy work, is it?
And you're seeing what we saw in the 1970s in so many ways, sadly. Yeah. Inflation going up, the cost of living, hurting ordinary families. And you're seeing two types of people leaving the country. The wealthy, taking all that money with them. And then you're also seeing the ambitious. Yeah. Far too many. We're competing with Dubai and Singapore and other countries. We should have taken that inheritance of the fastest growing economy in the G7, inflation back on target, and we should have been just trying to stay steady, let the economy grow. If the economy grows, this is what they talked about before the election, and they were right. If the economy grows, you get more money.
God, it must annoy you about how bad a job you lot did to have allowed these people in. And I'm not even having a dig when I say that. The other story I want to talk to you about is So the Tories had Rwanda, which wasn't universally popular. The Labour Party swept to power, a massive majority, by saying that we're going to smash the gangs. Still nothing. Still the numbers increase. The weather gets better. Still this country, and people won't like this, is being overrun by people who are taking advantage of public services that our own people can't have. That's not against the law, saying that. That's the truth. The government's response today, Yvette, I call her Mrs. Balls, is that the nationalities of migrants with the highest rates of crime will be revealed in official league tables for the first time under plans of this government. Graham Stuart, would it not be better if this government worked out how it could stop migrant criminals coming to this country in the first place?
Well, absolutely. They promised to smash the gangs. They've done anything but. In fact, they've boosted their business. They've boosted their business model because, as the UN and everybody else is recognising, you have to have a deterrent. This is exactly why we pushed. It was very difficult for the courts and the rest of it to get Rwanda scheme going. The first thing they did was cancel it. Now they're casting around, following the Italian and other examples, and indeed the UN, and going, oh, actually, we need somewhere to process people so that they're not tempted to come here, knowing that they're going to be able to just live in the UK, claim benefits, and the rest of it. So it's a total disaster under Labour. Rishi Sunak correctly predicted that it would be. But, you know, we should be fair to Labour voters. They were lied to. They were told economic growth would be the #1 priority. They went, oh, well, that's good. The Labour government's going to actually look after business. That's good. They were told they'd protect pensioners. Then they didn't. Protect farmers. They didn't. And they were told, we're going to smash the gangs. Because quite clearly, you and I have discussed before, you know, the Conservatives didn't deliver on their promises on immigration, which is why it's a really important area for us to come forward with credible policies ahead of the next election.
I mean, I was laughing. I was laughing yesterday. I don't have to like everything about the orange man baby that is Donald Trump, but there's a group of MPs, predominantly Labour MPs, who are doing the rounds across Westminster saying, how can this dreadful liar be allowed to come here and talk to Parliament? Whether he's lied or not, right? He is the democratically elected leader of the free world who won the majority vote, you know, the popular vote, I think for the first time in maybe 40 years or something unbelievable. And I do find it a bit stinking rich from the Labour Party. I mean, you just labelled and listed the people they lied to. They did lie. They looked farmers in the eye. That's what Keir Starmer said. We will protect you. They've screwed them. Pensioners, veterans. What about waspy women? He screwed the waspy women as well, didn't he? He's actually lied to everybody. And now it transpires that actually he doesn't, you know, he was lying when he said a woman isn't a woman, a trans woman. And we've got a Chancellor who doesn't really know how economics works. I'm not given to being or trying to be outrageous, but we're a year in. What does the next 4 years hold under this mob, Graham?
Well, it's depressing. Well, the next year, according to the IMF, and they frequently get their predictions wrong, so let's get that on the record in the favour column for the government. But they're saying that it is the UK government's fault. It's UK government policies which are doing it, and that we're going to have inflation going up. And you'll remember there's a wafer-thin fiscal headroom. I mean, Rachel Reeves, the one thing she's clinging to, she casts around in the sea, is that she's going to stick to her fiscal rules. Well, all her headroom's gone, more than gone. With these numbers from the IMF today, if they're right and we're going to have this really, really low level of growth, then she's not going to be able to fund what she's promised to fund, in which case she's either putting taxes up further or she's making cuts. And again, that's what the IMF has said. And so far they're in denial. So what could we do in this coming year? Keir Starmer should bring her in and he should say, Rachel, you're fired. Because it's so important she goes. She is a particular problem. Who do you replace
her with, though? Who's got?
Well, that's a good question.
I mean, we've got
probably somebody not in the cabinet at the moment because, you know, we looked across. Oh, look, there's the business secretary. That's good. He's got private sector experience acting as a solicitor. Well, it turns out acting was the appropriate
So the
word.
business secretary lied about being a solicitor. Lammy just eats his way through the Foreign Office. I can't, honestly, that embarrasses me. So, I mean, when he said that the green agenda is more important than the Ukraine-Russia war, I mean, that's him. I can't even acknowledge anything he says. You've got Miliband, who's I think one of the most dangerous politicians in this country right now. Genuinely, he's got to be fired. If you were Keir Starmer, I mean, I'd be firing myself if I was Keir Starmer, but you could quite easily make a case for sacking your Chancellor, your Foreign Secretary and your Energy Secretary and your Business Secretary right now, couldn't you?
You could, and you could say that they all should have been fired by now. If he's going to it could be a night of the long knives. It was Macmillan, wasn't it?
Yep.
Way back when.
Yeah.
And if that's what it requires, the country needs to be turned around. We cannot have a chancellor who has no understanding of where wealth comes from, because it's not going to be you or me, Jeremy. It's going to be the people at the bottom, the people on low-wage, part-time work. I mean, the lowering of the national insurance threshold from 9,000 to 5,000 sounds very technical. I don't fully grasp it, but it just means hundreds of thousands more people who are trying to get into work, who've been out of work, are suddenly being penalised. That's
here's the thing to finish it. You know, we're I guess of the same age. I was brought up, you know, in a Tory household. It was about low inflation and safe streets and military and all the things that we've talked about. But it was about good housekeeping. The truth of the matter is, they promised, all Labour Party, all Labour governments promise everything to everybody. And when they get elected, they realise that they can't afford to do that. So in the old days, they'd print money and inflation would be at 30%. And if they stand their ground, the unions that got them there in the first place go on strike. It started in Birmingham. And I think you're right. Listen, Graham, thank you, mate. Really good to have you on. Really appreciate your input as ever. Good to have you. Graham Stuart, Conservative MP for Beverley and Holderness.